Among the activities that took a lot of my time away from YouTube videos last year, I completed The Artist's Way with a book club that I am in. I should have known prior to reading it that it was more than just a book, because when I heard people talk about it, they would say, I did The Artist's Way, not I read The Artist's Way. But I did not look into that at all. So it is a commitment, and when it was all said and done, I had some thoughts that I would like to share. And since I imagine my viewers might be the type of people that would be interested in such a book course, I figured I would share it with you all. So before I get started, I guess I should explain a little bit about what the Artist's Way is. It is, you can see on there, a spiritual path to higher creativity. This is kind of a self-help study to get yourself back to like a childlike state where you really had creativity for the sake of creativity and appreciated art, didn't feel overwhelmed or feel like it was worthless. I don't know, I guess that sums it up. I didn't write that part in the script, so I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. But I guess I should probably tell you what it is. But it is written by Julia Cameron, and you'll see on the cover it says internationally best-selling author. This is her internationally best-selling book, is The Artist's Way. It came out in 1992, and she is a journalist, I believe, and I know that she talks about in here that she wrote and directed movies and, had other creative endeavors, but primarily she's a writer. So let's start with the cons, because that's how I roll. My biggest complaint with this, the number one con, I think, is that she seems really narrow-minded in her views, as though everyone has the same life experiences and situations that she does. She's definitely writing from a position of privilege, and the parts of that bother me the most, firstly, the idea that if you believe in God, then he will provide you with the money to create your art. This is a slap in the face to struggling artists who do believe in God. I personally hate any instance of you didn't believe enough. It puts the speaker in a position of claiming to know God's will, and it puts the listener in a position of being at fault for not having strong enough faith. You usually see this a lot with people who have some kind of disability or illness. They didn't have enough faith or didn't believe hard enough or whatever. So it's making them responsible for their own misfortune. And the Bible is very clear on that. That is not how life works. The other part that comes across as really privileged and kind of tone deaf to the average audience is there is a suggestion in here. She kind of has a bulleted list of questions you can ask yourself. And one of them is, who do I know who has an agent? Then ask them how they got one. Who do I know that has an agent? Ah, yes. Of course. Why didn't I just think to ask them how they got one? So many people that I know have agents, and I just needed to ask them. Another running theme with the writer and her narrow-mindedness about experiences she has that she kind of feels like everybody has is that she definitely has a strained relationship with her parents. She just kind of assumes that everybody does. The assumption that carries through the book is that all parents look down on art, especially art as a career, and that is a point of contention with all persons reading the book. In one of the exercises where there's statements that you have to complete with your own thoughts, the one statement is, I remember my mother would tell me to snap out of it by reminding me blank, which is a weirdly specific statement that no one in our group related to at all. My mom didn't tell me to snap out of it? Huh. And the writer has, or has had, I don't know, maybe she dropped them, toxic friends in her life and just kind of assumes that we all do. And maybe I did at some point in my life, but not as an adult, I don't think. As an adult, I just shed that. I think that was pretty universal in our group too, that we didn't relate to that at all. Another con that I found is that if you're an atheist, the writer says you can still use this book. I don't believe that, particularly where she makes such statements as, "It's my experience that we're much more afraid that there might be a God than we are that there might not be," and launches into an essay about the existence of God. She has said that where she uses God in the book, it can be replaced by good orderly direction or flow, but how you can do that in a section such as this one is baffling to me. You are literally making an argument for the existence of God after telling people in the beginning of the book that they don't necessarily have to believe in one. There's also this idea of resenting family or friends for getting in the way of your dreams or your creativity in kind of an inactive way that didn't really resonate with any of us either. And I don't feel like it resonates with enough people to make it a universal truth. She describes a mother seething on the sidelines of her child's sports game because she isn't able to take a pottery class. I think that's extreme. Even for the people who do feel a little bit of resentment for not being able to have that sort of autonomy in their schedules. And it really should be revamped to show a broader range of emotions that don't seem so harsh. I don't have kids, but I know that the mothers in my life would not be seething with resentment for having to sacrifice a pottery class in order to watch their child's game. I think their anger, if you can call it that, would be more at the lack of time in general and not directed toward the child that they want to love and support. This book is definitely written more for people who want to do art as a job or already do art as a job. If you are a hobbyist and you want to remain a hobbyist, it doesn't really speak to you as much. I feel like the idea of doing your art as a job is overemphasized, especially with all of the testimonials of people who quit their 9-to-5, followed their dreams, and became super successful. I don't think that's what everybody wants. When your art is your job, your art becomes work. It is no longer an escape from work. It's a little ironic that this book is pushing you to pursue a career in your art form while also pushing you to find joy and creativity the way you once did. If it's already your job and you're feeling a little burnt out, it's a great message. But otherwise, it can feel a little hypocritical. Okay, this is a light con, but she does make it sound like she wants you to be selfish. I support self-care, and more than one of us in our little book club group needed to carve out some personal space, some time in our schedules without feeling guilty, but the writing wasn't presented in a delicate enough manner to highlight the importance of this personal time. She really made it sound like she was telling you to shut out your friends and your family and just only care about your own needs. I can't really think of a specific statement. It's more of a general feeling. But I would say that the majority of readers probably struggle with this concept, so I would suggest that it be presented better and at more length, especially for people who are the caretaker of their homes or are in a committed relationship. It can be difficult to justify doing things on your own when you can just as easily take someone else, and I think she could have explained this better. Another con is the morning pages. They are set up to be something that they just aren't. I realize that I didn't explain at all what morning pages are, so let me just jump in here and add that. It is stream of consciousness style journaling, meaning you write exactly what's going through your head without worrying about structure or grammar. The instructions are to wake up an hour earlier and write 3 full 8.5 by 11 pages and not read them until later in the book. You aren't meant to share them with anyone to ensure that you're completely honest. And while I think that there is a lot of merit in this style of journaling, I do it a lot even before this book came into my life. I think that she should have
offered some alternatives rather than holding this exact structure on a pedestal. I think that there's other ways to achieve the same result. And I'm sorry for the video and audio quality, but there's a cat on my lap, so I couldn't get my camera or my microphone. Look at how happy he is. I can't make him move.
The first time she adds these to your weekly tasks, she says, "Welcome to the morning pages. They will change you." That is a very tall order, and we pretty much unanimously agreed that it did not fill that order for us. One of our members stopped doing them at all because it just brought up negative thoughts and set a bad precedence for the whole day. Me and another member pretty much used it as a glorified long-form to-do list, and a lot of our morning pages were mundane things that were going on around us. The cats are laying on the couch, Butters is staring out the window, that sort of thing. One of us described getting something out of morning pages, but not to the degree that the author sets it up. I will say that I have continued to try and do morning pages, but I've modified it significantly. For one thing, in the book, the length requirement is 3 pages every day. I have no length requirement. If I'm done writing, I'm done writing. And I type them out rather than write them by hand. It's easier, faster, and less wasteful. I haven't been doing them during the week as much because I've been struggling to get up in the morning, struggling to go to sleep on time at night. It's an endless cycle, but I still do them on weekends. I did find that doing the morning pages gave me energy, but not more than a little bit of exercise. And I kind of feel like exercising is like a more constructive use of my time because there's that physical aspect that I'm getting out of it too, instead of just writing. And I can achieve the same amount of energy I get from 5 minutes of cardio compared to like an hour of writing morning pages. As an aside, if you are struggling with energy during the day, try getting your heart racing like first thing in the morning. Just something little, some jumping jacks, maybe dance to an upbeat song. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but it has helped me out a lot. Try it, see if it does anything for you. Which brings me to another point. Her whole tone in this book is this size fits all. It isn't personalized at all, and it just assumes that what worked for her is going to work for everybody. To be fair, I'm sure she had a lot of people tell her how much her book changed their lives. It was written in 1992, and in the days before the internet, criticism such as this wasn't as easily reachable for the average person to both contribute or consume. But I prefer advice offered as, try it and see what works for you, where she states it more as, do this and it will work for you. Everyone's different, and I can't think of one single thing that would be a universal truth for that. Speaking of being published in 1992, the version that we used for our book club is the 30th anniversary edition, so this came out in 2022. There have been a 10th and 25th anniversary editions published prior to this one, but the only part that has changed, as far as I can tell, is the introduction. There's a task 1 week to deprive yourself of reading, which that in itself strikes me as a bad idea, but I digress. Supposedly reading is a distraction from your creative endeavors, so the idea is if you aren't reading, then you will pursue your creativity. There's a single mention of television deprivation for the same reason, but nothing of the internet or mobile games or social media or any of the distractions that we tend to have in our lives today. I feel like that should be updated, since I think that reading is one of the healthiest distractions that we could have at this point in history. I will also add that for myself, as a member of the Dopamine Deficiency Club, if I did cut out all of that, reading, TV, my phone, internet, all of it, I would literally sit and do nothing. If I don't have the energy to create, I'm not always going to be able to just will it into existence by taking away my distractions. I used to think this was the case, and then I found that I can sit on the couch or pace around the house for hours with no media presented to me. It's a gift, I guess? But I have found no merit in the reading deprivation, and I don't think I would have in 1992 either. It wasn't all bad, though. And there are some pros that I would like to address, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end. The number one pro, and I cannot stress this enough, is the artist date. So what an artist date is it's like a solo date. You go and you do something yourself, and it doesn't have to be outside of your house. It can be in your house. It's just time that you set aside for you. You do something yourself. And it's anything that inspires creativity. It doesn't necessarily have to be creating art, like taking a walk. And she has some suggestions on how to make that walk, like get the creative gears turning, take pictures of everything that's yellow, pick a flower, anything like that. It just kind of gets you in a creative mindset, takes you away from the hustle and bustle of life. I thought these were great. It's a great idea. As I said in the cons, it's difficult to justify doing something alone when you could take your significant other or family or friends, but I definitely saw merit in it. Prior to starting, I went with my boyfriend to Barnes & Noble. We got coffee. I was going to pick out a journal that I would use for the morning pages for the course, and just kind of like look at books and everything, since it had been a long time since I was at Barnes & Noble. We went, and for the most part we did our own things and just kind of like met up when we had something cool to show the other one. But when it came time that he wanted to leave, we left, where I probably would have been able to stay there a couple more hours. We had already been there like 3 or 4 hours, so I couldn't justify making him stay longer, but had I been on my own, I probably would have. It's one of those compromises that we do when we're with somebody else that we aren't always consciously aware of. Going to a museum, for example. You might want to look at something longer or not as long as the person you're with, but you kind of compromise your time so that you can experience the museum together. And that isn't a bad thing, but it's nice to have time to do that as well. There are a ton of ideas online for artist dates. Some are free, some are cheap, some are extravagant, some are simple. Out of everything this book has to offer, artist dates were my number one favorite thing. And I really think we all need to prioritize that kind of time for ourselves without feeling guilty. Another pro, I would say, is the tasks and exercises. They were hit or miss. Some of them were not at all enlightening or useful. Others brought about revelations. In the beginning, she tells you to focus on tasks that you feel the most resistance towards. We sort of found that to be bad advice. We weren't resisting them because we were avoiding some kind of breakthrough, but because they just didn't apply to us. There were also some that were age-specific. For example, describe what you think you'll be doing in your 50s isn't really all that relevant when you're in your 60s. Mostly I enjoyed the tasks where I could self-examine. It's one of my favorite things to do. And just sort of talk about myself with the rest of the group. There are things that we didn't know about each other, things that we have in common, and it was a really great bonding experience. It should be noted that we all know each other and felt comfortable sharing things that you might not feel comfortable sharing with a group that's organized rather than one that kind of came together organically like ours. Another pro is the structure and resources. The structure of the book is really ideal for somebody like me. I struggle with personal accountability. I think a lot of people do, and this book encourages a group setting. Each chapter is designed to be a week's journey with a written part that you read. There's exercises sometimes, then there's tasks at the end, and then a weekly check-in. I tend to do really well with this sort of structure, and there's even an appendix where it kind of gives you tips on how to facilitate a group doing this course. And since this book came out 33 years ago and it was an international bestseller, there are a ton of resources online. I even found rewrites of the basic principles that people had posted to help non-Christians get more out of the book. It makes it easier to tackle something like this when you feel supported, and all of the resources out there really give you this feeling of confidence when you're jumping into it. So what are my thoughts? I think the chapters could have been completely omitted and I would have liked it better. Everything she wrote either didn't resonate with any of us or wasn't anything revolutionary. There may have been one or two great things that she said, but I don't remember them. Mostly it was just very bad, and we all had moments where we either wanted to throw the book or just did. At the end of it, we were all really anxious to just get it done and over with, but It did actually inspire us in a lot of ways. There were dreams and goals that we shared that we had tossed aside and kind of revived after reading the book. I can see a difference in how we spend our time, with a little more priority given to solo activities or interests, and a couple of us are pursuing some creative ideas that came about during the course. Personally, it inspired me to write a book of a similar structure. It would be for a different purpose and obviously different content, but I've gone through a lot of phases in my life where I wanted to coach people on improving their situation, and I think a book like this, designed as an actionable study, would be of great benefit. It's something that I would really like to provide, and it's something that I think I could do. Overall, I'm really glad I read this, but I would not recommend it. I know that sounds strange. I know. If you'd like to read it, I suggest tailoring things that she insists you be strict on to fit your needs. For example, if morning pages aren't changing your life, scrap them. Maybe try doing them a different way or a different time of day, but don't force yourself to do something because she says you'll feel a certain way that you don't. If you have read The Artist's Way and would like to share your thoughts in the comments, please do. As always, be kind and respectful to one another and help people get a feel for whether or not this book would be right for them. My channel is typically focused on aesthetic sewing, but I will be doing more talking videos such as these so that I can complete more elaborate sewing projects and still have relevant content for you all to enjoy. If this is something you'd be interested in, please do subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. Until next time. Just going around in a circle. What is wrong? Why are you sad? I don't know what his deal is. Oh my goodness, we're at 20 minutes and I'm barely through half of this. Okay. We weren't resisting them because we were avoiding. Aesthetic. We did it!